Toki, mian milotake. This is the annoying language, pronounced Vetiorisaki no per. Oh, I forgot to sing that. Oh, whatever. I admit I took some inspiration from that, mainly from the tone system, bizarre orthography, and the way each word has different aspects. However, I decided to expand on these ideas and add my very own madness into the mix. I'm grateful for this opportunity to express my passion for linguistics and the opportunity to marvel at other people's submissions. Without any further ado, I present my language, the annoying language. For the phonology, these sounds are not directly represented. Rather, they form words which are represented by the symbols I chose. What have I done? For my sake, while transcribing letter pronunciations, there will be romanization in parentheses here. So we have ba, ba, tha, da, ga, fa, tha, sa, sha, ya, ha, ha, va, za, ra, ya, ra, wa, ra, la, ma, and na. As for the vowels, we have e or e, u, e, or o or o, n, and a. Because, of course, syllabic consonants have to be here. And there are tones. There are 7 tones that can be on a letter, although the articulation depends on the number of syllables that letter represents. The royal tone, marked with I think it's called a caron, it's a pointy thing that goes up. Each of them have 4, 6, 8, or 10 syllables. They are bits from songs, and I included the notes so that you can try. I mean, they're not exactly correct. I wrote the sources for them. The potato tone is the grave marker. The vocaloid tone is default. The intoxicated tone is marked with I think it's called a brave. It's like a little smiley on top of a letter. Including a song I came up with myself a long time ago. Pokemon tone marked with an acute mark because, of course, Pokemon actually becomes a big theme in this. The unhinged tone is an upside-down caron, pointing down. These are other various songs, including, and then Launch the Boomerang. 8-bit or chiptune with a macron. Da-da-da-da. And some others. Mock Megalovania and you'll have a bad time. Orthography. Here's where things get really weird. There are 33 letters, 31 of which have 3 possible pronunciations. The other 2, if placed after another letter, change that letter's pronunciation, a bit like the softening letter from Cyrillic. If those 2 don't have a letter in front of them, they'll have their own sound. There are 665 possible readings total, including tones. 1 less than the infamous 666. Ready? I am sure as hell not. Don't worry, I'm not going to be reading each of these individually. So each of them comes with their own syllables. We have ash, those 2 from Cyrillic, that other one from Cyrillic, Japanese shi, a xi, capital sigma, esh, other thing from Cyrillic, Japanese o, other thing from Cyrillic, c, both deltas, h, I with a line through it, k, thing from Cyrillic, Polish w, and a lot more, including yoch and ampersand. Just because. And then here's the U umlaut forms, which when a U umlaut's after it, they have this number of syllables are pronounced like this. They usually have more syllables than their default counterparts, but that's not always the case, like with pi here. And U. U is a weird one. And then SZ forms, which are when an SZ is after them. Usually they make it shorter, but not always. And they're pronounced a little bit differently. I wrote the romanized versions here because I don't want to have to go through this crap. And then there's the default pronunciation for the SZ and umlaut and U umlaut. Pokemon types. Each word has a Pokemon type, because of course it does, why wouldn't it? Words are ordered based on type effectiveness. Example, fire being weak to water, being weak to grass. Not, fire's good against grass, good against water. Modifiers go after the word they modify, regardless of the type. However, the next head word will be affected by the type of the modifier adjacent to it. For example, if a noun's fire type and its adjective is psychic type, the verb will be dark type or another type that's good against psychic. And then its adverbs fairy, noun will be poison because it's good against fairy. And yeah, dative, locative, ablative, instrumental, and genitive cases are marked. Genitive is seen as a modifier on a noun or verb though. Verbs must be marked for whether the subject comes before the object or vice versa. Or rather, it is not marked when the subject is before the object. It is marked when the opposite's true. Placeholder words for each type exist too, so a speaker does not get stuck. Meaning that they don't really have a meaning, they're just there for the type stuff. Each type has a number associated with it too. If the numbers of each word in the sentence, or clause, are added up, we get the modal number, which, when combined with the tone of the verb, determines the mood of the verb. There are also some very cut and dry affixes to be attached to the verb, which are used for tense and aspect. To group together two subjects or more, or two or more objects, there is a typeless particle which can be added between the two subjects or the two objects. You can continue chaining these along for as long as you would like. And don't worry, those affixes and particles will be introduced later. I'm just introducing the concepts right now. So, in the post-Cowles dialects, the only ones that are allowed, there are these types. Grass is 4, bug is 1, and I also added the weak to and resists, and the placeholder words there. Water is 3, ice is 7, fire is 5, electric's 10, psychic is 15, poison is 6, ghost is 13 because reasons, fighting is 2, ground is 9, rock is 14. Dark is I, as in the imaginary number. Steel is 8, normal is E, Euler's number. Flying is 11, dragon is 16, the highest of them. Fairy is 12, and typeless is 0. The modal number is also a mod 16, so it's basically has to be number above 6. You subtract 16 if it's more than 16. The placeholder is grammatically viable. It's typeless when no other will work. E and I do not work like the other girls. If there are two I in a clause, the mood of the verb is negated. Can becomes cannot. If there are an odd number of I in a clause, ignore them when counting. If there are an even number of I that is more than 2, the clause is to be regarded as irrealis or sarcastic. The number of E in a clause, if greater than 1 and not a prime number, is to replace the count that would otherwise be considered. And there are some exceptions to this stuff later, which I will introduce in the number section, which is after the transcription. So yeah, the number is mod 16, and here's all the numbers and the various tones, and then the moods that correspond to them. Yeah, each mood appears once in each column, so it doesn't matter what the tone of the verb is, it will always have a mood that goes along with it. I mean, it will always have every mood go along with it. So yeah, here's a guide to the moods. Memory. Speakers are calling a memory perhaps fuzzy, hyperbolic. Speakers exaggerating the verb. Goodness. Resumptive. Resuming or continuing an action. Obligative. Need or duty. They need to verb. Volative. A want. They want to verb. Speculative. Maybe verb. Perhaps. Abilitative. Able to verb. Imperative. Speaker is issuing a command to the verb. He must. You should. I'd also like to apologize for there being a bit of a discrepancy between my video and my audio. I was trying to record with Xbox Live game bar thing, and it wasn't working. Try, attempt to verb, trying to verb, not there yet. Optative, expresses the speaker's desire for a clause to occur, not necessarily the desire of the subject of the sentence. The first two lines of the chart there are completely empty, meaning no mood. Otherwise, moodless spots are scattered about. Good luck remembering this. It will be on the test. There is no test. Word order is resistance oriented for yes-no questions. Fire resists fairy, resists dark. Reverse weakness for causative. Grass is good against fire, grass is good against water, is good against fire. Goodness. And reverse resistance for contextual clauses. If dark, fairy, fire, because dark is resisted by fairy, is resisted by fire, then returns to normal order, grass, fire, water. Pronouns. Third-person pronouns go at the end of nouns before being used by themselves so that it is clear what they are referring to. They take on the type of their host. Then I have pronouns for you and me, and then he, she, it, a, it, be, and such don't have types. Demonstrative can also refer to an entire clause if it's marked on the verb of that clause. First person pronoun is water, second is fairy, and one generic person is usually psychic because the word for person is psychic type. Interletter mutation, each letter begins and ends with a consonant. It may be difficult to pronounce any given word, that is why, depending on context and other variables, the beginning sound of the second letter or the ending sound of the first letter may be excluded. In neither of those cases, one of the 6 vowel phonemes is inserted between them. If the word's number is less than or equal to 8, or the word is a locative case noun, including adjectives of locative nouns, endings between letters are excluded. If the word's number is more than 8, or the word is ablative or instrumental case, including adjectives of those noun types, beginnings between letters are excluded. If the word's number is I, or the word is a verb, one of those vowels, and one of the vowels is inserted between them. The schwa, is for no mood or non-verb. U represents volative or optative moods. A is for memorial and resumptive moods. O is for hyperbolic and imperative moods. E is for ability and or speculative moods. And finally, is used for attempted and obligatory moves. For specificity on moods, see the previous chart about modal number and tone. In cases where criteria for multiple of these are met, go with whatever sounds best in your opinion. Or you could come up with some convoluted system to sort this out. Whatever. Honestly, I prefer convoluted, as long as you don't overshadow me. Then, here's the rest of the lexicon that I could be asked to do. To fly, dragon type. Law, fighting, all, ghost, some, poison, none, no, negation, typeless. Hymenopteron, being a bee, wasp, or ant, is bug. Wing is flying. Arm is fighting. To be, the copula, is fire. Small is fairy. To have, possess, is dark. Ground, sea level, the world. Ground, big, steel. Cumbersome, unwieldy, is rock. To think, have opinion, that is psychic. Body, form, fighting. Relevant, valid, grass. In comparison to, particle is water. Clouds, transition, conjunction, is typeless. The K is the and. Typeless, person, entity, psychic. Salary, wage, payment, metal. To annoy is normal. To communicate is rock. Language is normal. More, increased, grass. To stop, freeze, seize up is ice. Skull, authority is bug. That's because Team Skull rules this world where the Conlang is supposed to take place in. To go to is electric. There's a suffix for when object is before subject. Suffix that turns verbs into modifiers, turns verbs into nouns. Genitive, dative, ablative, locative, instrumental suffixes. Past tense suffix, general or habitual. Past perfective, past imperfective, and future tense suffixes. And none of those suffixes have any types. The translation. Context, all bees fly as an adjective. Bees cannot fly. Wing, all bees, genitive, are small. Body, all bees, genitive, are cumbersome. Context, fly, noun. Bees, obligatory, have wing, object, big. Bees have not wing, object, big. Bee, fly from ground. Context, think, noun, human genitive. This can negative be. Think, noun, human genitive are relevant, not in comparison to be dative. There's my little script that I did, and I I would like to take this moment to remind you that each and every single one of those symbols represents a 4 to 10 sung syllables, with the possible exception of U umlaut and SZ, depending on context. The brackets mean excluded because of rule. The curly brackets mean included because of rule. The parentheses mean tone, and the period means end of word. Now I'm going to put in the transcription. I recorded every word individually. Stay after that because there's more stuff. Tokraje perasafkar samne khorpakerosen jechran tafuska ahesitikur aptos gavruv lamana tavuta arahotav tazakopusur sirza kapavit sekfet pathazole Peka sirpus Putu pelos popcorn Tafuska ahesitikor Skepathole peka sirpus Putu pelos popcorn Tazakopusur sirza kapavit Helmal velta holtim Samne khorpakerosen jechran Sekpep Pathazole peka sirpu Ntalkehet Pisfi parthof pero parna porip Putu pelos popcorn Poto tomtak hokor Kazeveri gizarpicheth Kasapa atake esap Samne khorpakerosen jechran Sekpe pathazole peka sirpu Ntalkehet Pisfi parthof pero parna porip Palata fentalkehet tamakop Poto tomtak hokor Tavuska ahesitikor aptos gavruv Lamana tavuta arahotav Sekfet pathazole peka sirpus Helmal velta holtim Sevrikarpeth Gerbiraham shagat Poto tomtak hokor Tarefako zeprethnisop Skepathole peka sirpus Ratkekerus peror Sekfet pathazole peka sirpus Putu pelos popcorn Gerbiraham shagat Asheta shikira shosho pushiris Poto tomtak hokor Helmal velta holtim Sevrikarpeth Sekfet pathazole peka sirpus Putu pelos popcorn Tafuska ahesitikor atrefkethnisop Putu pelos popcorn Pototoso mata hokor Utqaf bernazuthiz Yaruza hopi koshekef Aptos gavruv Petgoris kanopez Ntarkehet Lamana tavuta arahotav Tazakopusur sirza kapavit Pisfi parthof pero parna porip Hisu shetkaf Putu pelos popcorn Tref kethnisop Putu pelos popcorn Tazakopusur sirza kapavit Poto tomtak hokor Yaruza hopi koshekef Aptos gavruv Petgoris kanopez Ntarkehet Jakor jater jirkaz tu pelos popcorn. Zarus mirka sike. Shetta shikira shosho bu shuris. Vis vi partho fero parna porip. Het kolla hesi shaheptis. Stak der pata moasus. Sekve pata tolepe kasirbu. Plata ventarke heta makop. And now for the number system. Ah yes, I almost forgot to add a number system. Because each of the types is already equipped with a number, saying a number is as easy as reduplicating the type placeholder that represents the number. However, numbers are considered typeless, and depending on whether or not the number is above, below, or equal to 8, the end of one letter or the beginning of the other will be excluded from pronunciation, just like other things. The system is base 17, also known as suboptimal, source, the most superficial commentator on conlangs, sick, since the erudite B. Barry Benson, Gibson, aka Jan Misali. Thank you to them. Every type represents its associated number, other than dark and normal, of course. Reduplicating the dark type placeholder implies a -1. Attaching a dark type placeholder to another number makes it negative. The normal type equivalent, rather than actual being Euler's number, is indicative of modal number exclusion, which we'll get to in a couple of paragraphs. Reduplicating the normal type placeholder by itself means that it is a variable. Aside from that, standard mathematical notation applies, just suited for base 17 instead of base 10. So example, thing for 2, thing for 13, because 2 times 17 plus 4 is, plus 13 is 47, and then 17 plus 4 is 21. You add those together, you get 40, meaning 17 times 4 being 68. That was kind of difficult to explain, but I think you might understand. But wait, there's more. Firstly, numbers are considered nouns in this conlang, and in order to say that there are a specific number of something, you must use the thing that you're quantifying as a genitive on the number. Second, how would I be able to tell the difference between 1 and 18, or 2 and 36? Excellent question. Canonically, there's no valid way to tell the difference in writing or in speech. However, in dialects justly outlawed by our glorious leader Guzma, the final consonant cluster of the number is replaced by glottal stop. In writing, this is indicated by an apostrophe. So 2 is that, and 36 is that. Technically, this means there are 666 letter pronunciations. This apostrophe is analyzed as altering the sound of the letter before it. If this technique is used in the empire of Team Skull, however, you will be besieged by bug types and possibly jailed. This is a valid and fair punishment for the crime of wanting to be ambiguous. And unambiguous, I mean. Only Team Skull members can speak as clearly as a crystal skull, as they deserve to, because they want to know. Lastly, there is the question of how these numbers interact with the modal numbers that determine the mood of a clause that contains a verb. If a number of has a normal type placeholder at the end of it, that means it is excluded from the modal number. Oh my god. If it has 2 normal type placeholders at the end, that means that number, mod 16, is subtracted from the apparent modal number to indicate the actual modal number. Also, it has to be the absolute value. So if the actual modal number is negative, just use the absolute value. And ordinals. Just add the ablative case to the number. It won't be considered as ablative unless you reduplicate the ablative suffix. To say that something came from an ordinal, use the ablative suffix 3 times, I guess. This is like one of the last things I added. To turn a noun into a modifier, add that to the end. To turn a noun into a verb, add that to the end. To turn a modifier into a verb, add that to the end. To turn a modifier into a noun, add that as a suffix. I would have added these into as much of my lexicon as I will be bemothered, yes, that is a word, thank you, Rob Words, to make section, but then it would have spilled over to the next page and ruined my aesthetic, much like the tone section did. Unless I come up with any more ridiculous ideas that I can add to this, expect this to be the end. The bloody end. This was a nice exercise in sheer stupidity. Affectionate. I look forward to seeing other people's entries, and I hope to make another atrocity next year, if there is one next year. Anyways, thank you, and mitawa.